Everyone would like to have pure joy.
Some people call it happiness or having a blast. Windsurfing, watching a sunrise, winning a lottery ticket, or going out on a date.
On this program of The Third Story, we'll explore the joy that comes from helping the helpless, unmugging the mugged, and helping a loser find a home.
But first, one kind of joy is the pleasant feeling you get from a cold drink of water when you're really, really thirsty.
One of the most satisfying experiences a person can have is to take a good drink of water when he feels he's almost dying of thirst. Your feeling of thirst begins in the cells of your body, which are made up mainly of water. So obviously your body needs to have water constantly. If for some reason the fluids in your circulation system suddenly drop off, a message speeds to your brain telling you to drink. This is what happens when you perspire a lot during a game. Or, more seriously, when you're cut badly in an accident and you lose a lot of blood. All the blood in you is filtered through your kidneys. If for some reason the amount of blood in your system drops suddenly, your kidneys sense this and release a chemical which sends the information to the brain, which in turn tells you that you are thirsty. You also become thirsty when the concentration of salt increases in the fluid compartments in your body. Special cells in your brain detect this increase and let you know that you need something to drink. When you exercise, your body temperature increases and you sweat. This cools the body, but it also takes water from the blood. With less water, the concentration of salt in your blood becomes higher. Again, this high concentration of salt excites your salt-sensing cells, and you begin to look around for the closest pop machine. But how do you know when to stop drinking? When your body's had enough. Obviously, you stop drinking before the water you've drunk is absorbed from the stomach into the bloodstream. Scientists say that we seem to have a metering mechanism in our mouths that somehow measures when we've had enough. But they feel that the main signal to stop drinking comes from the stomach. When the stomach becomes full of water, it expands from the pressure inside and sends a full signal to the brain. One researcher suggests that the reason cold water satisfies thirst more quickly than warm water is that cold water moves out of the stomach much more slowly than warm water does. The cold water, remaining in the stomach longer, gives a clearer, full signal to the brain. Really, you could say that the parts of the body talk to each other. When the needs are great, they kind of scream at each other, "I need water," or "Hold it, that's enough." They can make you feel very miserable when they need water, and of course, very happy when you've had a satisfying drink.
Have you ever been so thirsty that the vultures followed you around, Garth?
Well, no, but I remember being so thirsty once that chalk dust would have seemed wet.
We'll be back. The feeling of craving a cold drink of water when you're really thirsty is something you don't forget easily. It's a similar feeling to anxiously want help when no one will give it to you.
But when that help comes, well, let's see how our professor feels. what a relief.
We're not always as joyful as we could be. Sometimes things pile up on us, and we become hard to live with.
I don't see why we have to make supper.
Because Mom went to see Mrs. Johnson and she said we had to.
None of my friends have to help with supper.
Neither do mine. I hate it as much as you do. But if we don't have supper on the table by the time Mom gets back, we won't be going out tonight.
Sometimes I think Mom thinks that Mrs. Johnson is more important than we are.
Sigurd, she's got a broken back.
Well, all this work is breaking my back.
Mrs. Johnson is in constant pain.
I know.
You know, but Mom says even though she has the pain, she's always cheerful.
So what? She was always like that, even when I delivered papers to her. Wonder when Mom will come home.
I don't know, but I hope it's after I get this pudding done.
You probably make it too watery, and I hate watery pudding.
Boy, you're a grouch today. What happened in school?
The teacher picked on me just because I didn't have one question done on my homework. She made me stay and clean chalkboards, which made me late for the baseball practice, and I had to go out in the field.
Next time, do your homework.
That's not all. I dropped a fly ball, and the whole team got mad at me. They didn't even care if I sprained my finger trying. Look at it. It's twice the size of the other one, and it hurts.
Big deal.
I could hardly hold the pen this afternoon, but that didn't stop Mrs. Busby giving me lines just because I asked Sue for one small pencil.
Rough day, huh?
You better believe it. Tonight I'm supposed to practice flute with Joanne, and I'm a cripple. But do you think anyone cares? I come home and have to work.
You poor thing.
I bet Mom won't care either. She'll make me go to practice.
Oh, Sig, you set all the cutlery on the wrong side.
See, even you're picking on me.
I'm not picking on you. You're just miserable, that's all.
Sure wish Mom would come home.
She's not usually this late. Mrs. Johnson must be having a bad day. Mom says she doesn't have any family. She says if anyone was treated unfairly, she was. But she's never down. She's always cheerful. She just keeps making those nice sweaters for people.
I didn't know she had it so bad. She was always cheerful to me.
I know. That's what Mom says is so amazing. No matter what happens, Mrs. Johnson's never sad. She always seems to be cheerful. Like even when the doctors told her she might never walk again, she just accepted it.
She probably felt a lot worse about it than she let on.
Can you open that jar, please?
I can't do it. My finger hurts. Look, it's even more swollen than the last time I looked.
It is not.
Boy, I don't get any sympathy in this place. A slave driver for my sister. Well, I'm going to bed, and if Mom ever gets home, you can tell her to visit the sick right here in her own house.
Hello? Oh, hi, Mom. Okay, sort of. She what? What kind of complications? No. That's okay. No, Mrs. Johnson will need you. We can make out here for an hour. Okay. Bye-bye.
Garth, wouldn't it be nice if you could go to a school where they teach courses on how to be happy?
Well, the Bible talks a lot about deep inner joy. Maybe if you had a Bible school, that would be the place to find joy.
Well, there are places such as Bible schools. They don't specialize in joy classes, but they do attract young people who are looking for meaning in their lives.
The Third Story visited Bethany Bible Institute in Saskatchewan and talked to some of the staff and students.
Bible school training is something that provides answers to the needs that humans face. A lot of times people will admit that they have a need inside and they just can't figure out what there is that can meet it. But not necessarily saying that Bible school itself can meet that need, but what's taught here and what's presented here is something that can meet those needs.
Our program is set up to offer, first of all, a thorough knowledge of the Bible by way of classes, Bible studies, and sharing groups. The curriculum goes beyond that, though, to related subjects like psychology, Christian education focuses, music, missions, and so on. The students can be trained in skills, in sports skills, in music skills, in leadership.
I think one of these values that is underscored here, which is demonstrated in the lives of many of our students, is the fact that people are more important than things. And I think we see this demonstrated in the fact that they are showing us that it is not just important to make a living, but perhaps even more important than that is how we live and how we relate to our fellow man. And personally, I'm excited to be involved in the training of young people, to see them grow in their relationship to Jesus Christ and in their desire to serve Him more acceptably and to serve their fellow men more meaningfully.
First of all, I've made a lot of really good friends here, and I just know these friendships are going to continue through the years, like even after I'm finished here. But more, it's given me a better knowledge of God.
In the presence of God, I will sing for joy. In the presence of God, I will sing for joy. In the presence of God, the Father, I will sing His bountiful goodness endureth forever. In the presence of God, I will sing for joy. Hallelujah, praise to God in heaven. Hallelujah, shout the loud amen. In the presence of God, I will sing for joy.
I think youth today are more optimistic than they were some years ago. They're more willing to be involved and to just expend themselves in service for others. They're very optimistic about the future, which is exciting for me in a time of economic depression. And here I think they can give our country a lot of good leadership to show the rest of us the way.
There's a lot of opportunity for us young people to not sit at home and just, go to school and whatever, try to get a job. We can come to Bible school and maybe find new things in our life, new ways that, we never look into. I think the more you see God in your life, the more you have a good life, and the more you don't want to destroy but to build and to be positive. And I think it's, being a Christian, I can see it very positive.
After I'm finished here, I'd like to get my nurse's degree, and I'm also working on my pilot's license right now. I'd like to use them together somewhere to help people somewhere. And I don't know specifically what area. I'll just have to see what opens up for me. This summer when I was home, I already put some of the things that I've learned here into practice, which I thought was really good, but you continually are learning new things, and how they're going to fit into your life later on, you never really know.
I think it's important that Bible school students are aware of what their world is like. They should have a knowledge of their world. They should understand the person who is not committed to a biblical value and a lifestyle based upon the Scripture. But I think young people can bring a lot of optimism and a spirit of servanthood into a world that's really not very optimistic and encouraging. And I think if we have more young people who will be willing to be servants, insisting on privileges and responsibilities rather than rights, we can turn around a lot of the pessimism in our world.
We'll be back with more stories in a moment. The deepest joys we can have come as gifts from God. The things we spend our lives chasing often evaporate just when we have them in our grasp.
Knowing God is different. The joy He gives lasts forever.
One day, Jesus told this story. If you had 100 sheep, and one of them strayed away and was lost in the wilderness, wouldn't you leave the 99 other sheep in their barn and go and search for the lost one until you found it? And when you found it, you would joyfully carry it home on your shoulders. When you arrived home, you would call your friends and neighbors together to rejoice with you because your lost sheep was found. Jesus told stories about sheep because when he lived about 2,000 years ago, sheep farming was a common thing. The story he told was really a parable about people, and we could retell it something like this. There once was a teenager with parents who really loved him. He also had some friends. These friends were not always a good influence on him, and slowly he wandered away from the good things his mom and dad had taught him. Worst of all, he completely left God out of his life. His grades in school dropped because he didn't care anymore. Instead of doing his homework, He spent his evenings hanging around the local convenience store. On weekends, he went from one party to the next. Sometimes the police were called in, and soon he was in trouble with the law because of drugs. He couldn't stand being at home because he was always miserable there. He knew that a lot of what he was doing was wrong, and he was making his parents very unhappy. There were always arguments, and he began to feel lost and alone. But one day, God found him. It happened at a funeral. His best friend had been killed in a motorcycle accident. The preacher at the funeral talked about God-loving people who are hurting badly. God understands, he said, and when people know that what they are doing is wrong, they can come to him and say sorry. If they really mean it and they want out, he picks them up like the shepherd in the story Jesus told and gives them a new start. After the funeral, the teenager did some serious thinking. He was tired of running, especially from what he knew God wanted him to do. He made his decision. He gave his life to God to let him run it. In Jesus' story, there was joy and celebration all around when the lost sheep was found. And so also, there is joy in heaven and on earth when a wayward child comes back to God and his family.
We really enjoy the letters we receive, like this one. Dear Third Story, the problems that you show on the Third Story are very similar to the problems that happen every day all over the world. If you would be kind enough to send me your Third Story gift, I would be very grateful.
We'd like to hear from you. We have our stories, you have your story, and God has his story. God's story is what our survival kit is about. It has a book of the Bible in it, a poster with Bible verses on it to encourage you, cards to send to your friends, and stories from these programs.
It's free. You can have it by writing to The Third Story, Box 2, Station F, Winnipeg, Manitoba. That's The Third Story, Box 2, Station F, Winnipeg, Manitoba. We'll be waiting to hear from you.
Don't go away. We'll be back. One of the most satisfying experiences is to help other people with little things. Here's a way of bringing joy to others.
We're different. Just look at the prints. No two fingerprints on Earth are alike. But fingerprints are on the surface of the skin. Each of us has something unique underneath that skin, some kind of talent. Inside, there's something that wants to come out. Entertainers, listeners, talkers. People who don't listen. People with something to prove. Talents. Leave them buried down there, or bring them out and use them. How we use them is up to us. Talents? God gave them to us for a special reason when He made us. He can help us improve them and use them in the best possible ways. To hold them back is to cheat others of their benefits. Why hold them back?
Today we've talked about joy, the satisfying feeling that comes from knowing God and helping others. It's hard to put into words how good it feels to have a load lifted, to have a deep longing filled. The kind of thing God can do in us and we can do for others.
Next week, we'll be back with more stories that we hope will brighten your day.
The farmer waits for the harvest. The watchman waits for the dawn. I'll learn to wait on His guidance and trust Him when it seems I can't go on. I'm going back to the Master to face the wrong I've done. How can there be such forgiving grace, restored and complete? I will fall at His feet with new courage to live in His way. I'm going back to the Master to face the wrong I've done. How can there be such forgiving grace, restored